Well, the last 10 days have been very exciting for India's space tech story, to say the least. On the 18th of November, Skyroot Aerospace made the Prarambh for India's new age rocketry and launched India's first privately built rocket. A week later, Pixel and Dhruva hitched a ride on an ISRO PSLV, marking another first. The many firsts for Indian space tech startups in 2022 don't end there. Excited to take off soon, a few days ago, Agnikul set up India's first private rocket launch pad and mission control. Where? Well, in the backyard of ISRO, the mother of India's space program. And that speaks volumes. Indian space tech startups have truly come of age. Look at the number of space tech startups wanting to take off, now at over 100, with half of them being added in the last year alone. Investors have started lining up at the launch pad too. Funding for the Indian startup space in the space tech area has gone up by 5 times, from 22 million in 2020 to over 100 million in 2022. But founders will tell you it hasn't been easy until the liberalization of India's space economy in 2020. Now, a host of agencies, NSIL, InSpace, ISPA, they're all creating an enabling environment for private sector participation. A new space policy is also in the works. The opportunity is big. Satellites are getting smaller and sharper and want a cheaper and faster ride-sharing option. An Uber or an Ola to space. More than 20,000 smaller and sharper satellites are estimated to be launched in the coming decade. At least 100 countries don't have a satellite of their own. To tap this space, pun intended, Indian space tech startups took the giant leap in 2022, and 2023 is going to be equally monumental as many look to start commercial operations. Hello and welcome to Young Turks, India's longest-running show on startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Shereen Bhan, and with me today is a group of entrepreneurs who are reaching out for the stars, quite literally. Joining me now, Pawan Kumar Chandana, the co-founder of Skyroot Aerospace, and Moin SPM, the co-founder of Agnikul Cosmos. Also with us on the show, Awais Ahmed, founder and CEO of Pixel, and Chaitanya Dora, the co-founder and CFO of Dhruva Space. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the show. What an exciting time it is for Indian space tech startups. Pawan, let me start by asking you about your story and the journey to building India's first privately launched rocket. And congratulations to you and your team at Skyroot. Pawan, you know, many would not believe that you started only in 2018, that's when the Skyroot journey of taking this aspiration and making it a reality began. And here we are in 2022, and you've actually been able to launch India's first privately built rocket, Vikram, in November. Pawan, take us through this journey.
It's a wonderful journey, Shereen. In fact, in 2018, when we started off, there was no policy. And people said we would never raise enough capital to build and launch rockets. And in fact, we never knew when the policy will come, whether we'll get capital, whether there is technical competence, we could build a team which could, build rockets and launch to space. However, I think there it is, 4 years, great journey. And the policy has opened up a couple of years ago. We were able to raise capital, to get here. And we formed the team which could build India's first privately built rocket and launch it to space. It's been a phenomenal journey, a lot of ups and downs, but of course, a very memorable journey altogether. Everything, all pieces coming together at the right time, in the right place, and then launching to space. It's been a phenomenal journey overall.
Moin, let me address that issue with you. And once again, congratulations to you and your team at Agnikul. And, as I pointed out to Pawan, even your journey, Moin, 2017, that's really when you started Agnikul. And look at where you are today, setting up India's first private rocket launch pad, of course, in ISRO's backyard. But again, the distance from idea, aspiration to reality really compressed.
First of all, I think today is the 5 years of Agnikul. So we incorporated the company on December 1, 2017. So I think that's 5 years of journey for us.
Officially. Well, congratulations. Congratulations. What a day to have you on, Moin.
Thank you. Thank you, Shereen. Yeah. And as Pawan was also telling about the policy factor, the investment factor, all of these things, we were also anticipating the same kind of hurdles in our journey. But with respect to the policy, I think establishment of InSpace was a major turnover. I think once that started happening, things started becoming very easy in explaining things to investors as well. because like the investors have, as Pawan was also telling, the thesis was not there, and more importantly, they were worried about the legal aspects of it. And once that started becoming clear, I think a lot of the space companies have actually raised money, and I think you were also mentioning about 100 space startups coming up. I think that's the entire aspect of it, right? The legal and the finance comes together. I think all your problems are solved, and then you focus on the technology aspect of it. And that's exactly that is what we are focusing on.
Well, speaking about the road ahead, given the journey already covered, as well as the fact that whether it's the policy environment or it is the support coming in from both the private sector as well as ISRO and others, as well as perhaps a lot of international interest, what is planned now as far as priorities are concerned, Moin, before I get Awais and Chaitanya to come in?
Can you please just repeat your question? I'm sorry, I just had some kind of a...
Yeah, I was asking you about what the priorities are now going to be, Moin. Year 5 done. What's the priority from here?
Yeah, the first priority is to have our launch. That is the more important one, because that will be exactly demonstrating our technological prowess as well, because we will be doing liquids, and that's something that is keeping us on our boots. And from there, yes, we'll be focusing on the orbital class, and that's something that we are targeting next year as well. So for the next 1 year, I think we're pretty much occupied with our vision and our milestones that we have to meet. So that's exactly what we'll be focusing on.
Okay, so let's talk about missions and milestones, and let me ask Awais that, founder and CEO of Pixel. Awais, many thanks for joining us. And again, for the benefit of our viewers, like Pawan, you've managed to deal with the capital constraint. In fact, you've raised about $35 million to date. A whole host of investors, including the likes of Lightspeed, Bloom, etc., raised another $25 million in April this year of 2022. Awais, what is the milestone that you're hoping to clock? What's the priority?
Thanks for having me, Shereen. It's always a pleasure to be here. So I think, we kickstarted the journey in April of this year after a long wait in sending India's first private commercial satellite up there. And then, finally, in last Saturday, we launched the first satellite that we worked on, which was Anand, that finally went up on the ISRO PSLV rocket. So seeing India's first private commercial satellite that we started work on, launching on an Indian workhorse PSLV, was obviously a great moment. There were about 50, 60 folks from our company that went up all the way to Sriharikota to see the launch. So the major milestone up until this point essentially was to be able to show that we as a company can build and launch space hardware that works in space and then can beam down imagery, because building hardware on ground is an entirely different magnitude of problem from having something in space that can actually work, as I am sure all of us here would agree. So getting that up there and actually beaming down imagery was the first big milestone that we were focusing on. That was the past 2 to 3 years of our work at Pixel. And then the next step is showing that there is a market for this, right? You can raise as much investment as you want. You can raise as many funding you want. But then if you don't have customers paying for the imagery that you're getting, if you're not generating revenue, then you can't build a sustainable business, which is in the end what this is all about. So we are currently in the process of working on 6 commercial grade satellites, which will be much larger, which will have a much longer lifetime. And we are already funded for those with the round that we raised earlier this year. So I think, we are heads down working on these satellites, sending them up there. And then the next big milestone is showing that we can be a commercially sustainable company.
So a quick follow-up question, Awais. 6 commercially graded satellites. When are you expecting to put them out there? When do they go up? And secondly, you talked about something very important. I want each one of you to address that issue. Revenue potential, the market opportunity, and the monetization capability of each of these ideas and each of these businesses. And, I know that Pixel, for instance, has already launched or already inked about agreements with 50 customers so far. Give us a sense of the size of this market, the kind of opportunity and revenue potential that you're looking at.
Absolutely. So I think answering your first question with regards to the 6 satellites, they are already in production right now in the lab behind me here. and they'll be ready for launch by the middle of next year. So in the second half of next year, we intend to put 6 of these satellites up there, and then these 6 will provide us with global coverage every 2 days. So no matter what geography we're looking at, whether that's India here or whether that's the North America on the opposite side of the world, we'll be able to see an image of a place and then repeat that every 2 days, and that's possible for every part of the world. So that's going to happen in the second half of next year, and we're already on our way to that. In terms of the market opportunity, there are two strategies for us. In India, it's to grow the ecosystem, because apart from government agencies working with ISRO and procuring satellite imagery, that's been the only ecosystem. Now there are few startups that have come up, but it needs to significantly grow to enlarge enterprises that can actually buy imagery from us and understand why buying this is important. As of now, out of the 60 to 70 customers that we have globally, 90% of them come from North America and Europe. The total market size for Earth observation today in the world is about $5 billion on just the data sales, and then an additional $10 billion on the analytics that you can layer on top of that, right? And all of this is right now taken up by companies predominantly in North America and a few in Europe. The plan is that in the next 5 years, we become one of those players, starting out from India, building for the world, that will be able to do this. Most of our contracts will end up being many multi-year, multi-million-dollar contracts with subscription level data sets that we'll be able to provide them.
Well, based in India, but taking the model and servicing the opportunity that the world offers at this point in time, that's clearly going to be part of the strategy for each one of you, I would imagine. But Chaitanya, let me come to you and address the Dhruva story, because you've got a couple of years on these gentlemen, one 2018, one 2019, one 2017. So, Chaitanya, I want to understand from you the experience of actually setting up Dhruva as a full stack service provider, and where you see the market opening up as of today, and pick up on the point that Awais was mentioning of how India and Indian companies like yours can service the global market.
So, yeah, I think technically we have about 5 years on any one of them, considering we started off in 2012. But the market was completely different, and we really, the market started kicking off in 2018, 2019 timeframe. That's when we restarted Dhruva, and while we carry a lot of legacy that helped us in the new iteration, that's when we started everything off. And we do strongly believe in the full stack solution story. And when we started off, people are like, you guys are doing too much, it's too wide a breadth. But today I can confidently say that we are executing projects across the board. Something that's been close to us is that we need to work with the customers and start launching all our missions based on the customer requirements. So that's been going well. And yes, building in India for the world has been our tagline right from the start. Back in 2012, when Dhruva first started, one of the reasons Sanjay started the firm was because he built his first satellite as a student, and he's seen how much of a difference the costs across the board are, like compared to India. He's built his satellites in Europe, he's built in Singapore, etc. So he's like, it's 1:5 ratio at least on most of the systems. So, and we're 1 billion people out here in the country, and that's where the whole story started. And yeah, we strongly believe that, we can address the whole global market. I think currently we stand at about 2 to 3% of the global space economy. And with the privatization and the great push that ISRO in space and the current regime has been giving, we think we can easily scale up that percentage to much higher numbers. Yep.
Chaitanya, I want to understand from you, we were talking about milestones, future milestones that you hope to clock, as well as the areas that you intend to focus on. So take me through what we can now expect as far as Dhruva is concerned in the next few years.
So going down the line, satellite manufacturing and, of course, ground stations along with it has been a core interest. So we've demonstrated our smallest class satellite, the P-Dot that I have over here. But going down the line, we are looking at larger satellites, the 30 kg class and 100 kilo class satellites that we are developing and hope to put it in the orbit. We already have good interest from the customers. So we are looking at working with them and launching these satellites into space, hopefully in the next couple of years.
Okay, that's
And
good
also
to hear.
going down the line,
What I want to
another
now
thing
address
that, sorry.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, also we also want to start working more on the constellation probabilities and building up to the constellation, be it for us or be it for the customers. So that's something else that's in the pipeline now.
Well, what I want to address with each one of you, and Pawan, let me get you to address that. This whole business of space economics, we were addressing the issue of the opportunity that is available for the taking at this point in time, and the opportunity that each one of you is going after. But more importantly, also on the cost side, because you have some fairly aggressive aspirations and targets that you've set as far as the cost side is concerned. Pawan, you talk about bringing down the costs by almost 50%. That's the aim for Skyroot, to cut satellite launch costs by up to 50%. So if you can address both those issues, the monetization and the revenue potential, as well as what you're hoping to do on the cost side and how you intend to bring costs down by 50%.
Yeah, so firstly, in fact, like even Chaitanya mentioned, right, so the global space economy is close to $400 billion, but India's share is less than 2%. And in specifically for launch, which, Skyroot offers, it's less than even 1% of the global market. So there's ample opportunity, even though India is like one of the top 5 spacefaring nations, the global share, the global pie is pretty small. That's where the new reforms will open up, to a larger pie, once all the companies get operational in the next few years. So space launch per se, today it's around $10 billion market. It's set to grow to a $50 billion market soon. And then, with us, we want to innovate to a level where we can slash down the cost by 50%. It can be done. In fact, India has one big advantage. It is like by default there is a good cost advantage. In fact, the kind of advantage we get in the IT sector, similar we also get something in the high tech sector like space as well. With the 60 years of great infrastructure built in the country, with the kind of expertise built in the country, the ecosystem built in the country over the 60 years. I think building on top of that, I think there's a cost is a default to that. But of course, you cannot go beyond a level without a next level of innovation coming into the picture.
Let me get Moin to come in on that as well. Moin, just to pick up on what we heard there from Pawan on being able to address the cost issue and bring down costs quite significantly. And the other aspiration that Pawan spoke of was that, make companies like yours the sort of Uber or Ola in space, where it's as easy as booking a cab to send a rocket up. Moin, is it going to really be as simple as that? Or are we overestimating the ease as well as the potential?
Well, so it's a twofold question. So let me answer the first part of it. Being Indians, I think the first factor that we all focus is like reducing the cost, being more affordable for any customer that we could be. So that's the first aspect that we have. Yes, obviously in this course we have also been thinking about how to reduce the price. In this aspect, we figured out providing flexibility to the customers. For example, we have the ability to reduce the number of engines depending upon the payload that we'll be carrying. So all of these advantages come into play just with respect to reduce the cost of the vehicle so far, so that we can actually provide a better cost competition to the customers that we'll be having. So that's the first cost perspective that any company will be focusing on. The second aspect of it, as you were mentioning about, is it really going to be Ola or Uber? Rocket science is like one aspect where something works, it will work. You don't need to change anything. So if you figured out that part, it is our understanding that it is going to exactly be like the Ola or the Uber. So even if somebody asks what is your business model, it's just transportation business. Point A being ground and point B being space. So whether you call it as Ola, Uber, or Agnikul or Skyroot, that's exactly how it is going to be. So I think that is how we should be looking at things.
Well, you make rocket science look very easy, gentlemen, and I don't know if that is the case. So, I'm certainly inspired by your confidence. But before I get Awais in, Moin, December is going to be a big month for Agnikul with the Agniban.
Yes, I think we'll have a launch in the month of December. Yes, I think it's officially started. So yeah, this month we can expect a launch from us. So fingers crossed. Yeah.
Okay, so the countdown has quite literally begun. Do you want to leave us with a date?
I think we have to figure it out through the InSpace and ISRO. So we'll go through those particular channels, and then I think we'll get you to the date as well.
Well, you know, we look to having you back with us. As and when you meet that date with the date. But Awais, let's address the economics issue with you, because that was the one that you had sort of brought up. And in terms of the kind of visibility and the kind of response that you are starting to see from clients, investors, as you pointed out, now believe in this story because they actually have something to go by. But what's the kind of response that you're also seeing coming in from clients, as well as the niches that are opening up in terms of the addressable markets?
Sure. So I think, the good thing has been that this is when we started looking at hyperspectral data, we didn't want to start with something that someone else had done in some other country and then replicate that here in the country. We wanted to very clearly focus on something that no one else in the world had done. So when we started in 2019, there existed no way of obtaining hyperspectral data from space, which should help us see a lot more things with regards to the health of the planet. And we said, if this is a data set that's not available out there on the internet, we will build our own satellites then to provide it. And even today, we are the only ones that are currently operating a hyperspectral commercial satellite from space, which also happens to be the highest resolution one. So thanks to that, a lot of clients that had the need for this data, which we had validated before we even got started manufacturing on this, they reached out to us through our website. They reached out to us on our email asking us that this is the data set that they require. Mining companies reached out saying we need help with containing the environmental impact that the mines have had. Oil and gas companies have reached out to us telling us that there are leaks that occur in these pipelines and we need satellite help to be able to see where those leaks are occurring and when they are occurring. Agricultural companies are coming to us to get a sense of how healthy the crops are or the soil is or what nutrients are missing from there. So I think we've been lucky that way that we managed to focus on a technology that was missing globally, and we decided that we would build it for the first time, and then clients are coming there. Of course, there's another aspect to that where our own team continuously reaches out to clients around the group to be able to say, here's hyperspectral data, here's how it can help make your operations more efficient or save you more money, and then we move ahead from there. So as I said, about 60 customers already signed on, out of which 90% are abroad India. But we're starting to see money already starting to come in. I think that's the biggest validation, that when you have some technology that you have built and then customers are starting to pay for that data, that happens. In our case, we didn't really look at the economics that much. We wanted to focus on the premium data set, right? The cost aspect and the cost savings and the efficiency that come from manufacturing here in Bangalore are obviously a big bonus, but from our perspective, we want to provide a premium data set to our customers that they don't have access to today, that they will not get access to in the closed run, and that's why we can still charge the same amount of prices that anyone else is able to charge globally. At the same time, our costs and spendings are much lower, meaning that we have much higher margin. So we look at cost as a big bonus, focusing on the innovation aspect of it, providing something that no one else has access to, but absolutely being here has its advantages in terms of keeping things very, very low cost and efficient, which is important if we need to grow the pie of the economy. If you need to make that $400 billion, that $1 trillion in the next 2 years, that's important for us to do.
Yes, and each of you are going to help in growing that pie, so to speak. But Chaitanya, since we talked about the fact that this is of course, a sunrise sector, a nascent sector in India, 100+ startups already in this space. As someone who has a decade-long experience of being in this space, being there and done that, what is it that you would hold out in terms of the checklist on those who are looking at this opportunity?
One, perseverance, and two, having to be meticulous, right? So the amount of testing that our team has done for every bit of launch, be it on the satellite, be it on the ground segment, is just immense. Like, they did not leave anything to chance. So, and typically if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. And once you're in space, you can't really handle it, and it could have repercussions. So it's necessary that, whoever's coming in, they do have that drive and also have a long-term vision where they're going. Because it is, end of the day, relatively it's a deep tech sector, so you can't expect someone to be okay today. We do it tomorrow. I changed my idea. Day after tomorrow, that's not going to sustain. So it's necessary to have like a really long term plan and understand what's needed in the sector. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Meticulous, consistent, and of course, detail-oriented. That is going to have to be the mindset. Gentlemen, I'm going to end by asking you, so many comparisons, and I think the one that has captured everyone's imagination is the comparison with Musk. Pawan, let me start by asking you, I don't know how many times you've been asked or you've been called the Elon Musk of India and so on and so forth. I mean, when you hear things like that, what does it make you feel, and what is the inspiration today?
Yeah, so definitely, I think Musk has been an inspiration for many space entrepreneurs and the space sector as a whole, for sure. And just because people associate rockets with Musk, we get almost, I'm sure everybody gets asked this question. Anything we do in space, are you with the Elon Musk of India? So this keeps coming a lot. But of course, I think it's time to build our own X or Y or Z from the country. I think with our own independent identity, do our own different way. And of course, getting inspired by stalwarts like Elon.
Congratulations to each one of you. We wish you the very best of luck and look forward to having you back here as you clock more milestones. Thanks very much for your time. That's a wrap on this very special edition of Young Turks. From all of us here on the show, goodbye. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.
ये लो अब खाओ कद्दू इसके चक्कर